Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. We're presented by Yes Realty Partners, trusted name in the real estate game. Yes Realty Partners. Find them online at yesrealtypartners.com. We also thank a cast of fantastic local businesses that make Real Talk possible, guys. Charlottesville Settlement Company, Pearl Certification, Dairy Market, just a fantastic, wonderful group. And on a Friday, we pay tribute.
Pest Control.
Intrastate Pest and Service Companies. And on Fridays, we pay tribute to Shenandoah Joe's. Dave Fafara and Shenandoah Joe's making the candidates roundtable possible. Judah Wickower, why don't we go to the studio camera and let's welcome everyone to the program. We have Keith Smith, who you know, Chris Fairchild, who you're certainly getting to know, his second appearance on the network, and first rodeo for Bob Babyok, joining us, the chairman of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
It's absolutely a pleasure. This is a continuation of last Friday when O'Brien was sitting in your seat, and one of my genius ideas was to see if we can have a conversation about Zion's Crossroads. We constantly talk about it on the show, about being the next Crozet. So, Bob, you're the chairperson, so I figured we can start with the top here at this point. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Bob.
Well, I've been a resident of Louisa County 12 years, and I came from a military career background, 20 years, 3 months, 16 days, not that I was counting, and then went into
How many minutes and hours?
Oh, well, I don't have that yet.
Okay.
Thank you for your service, Bob.
Amen.
And I had a Vietnam tour, and after that, I got into a more hazardous assignment, working as general manager of different country clubs, working for a lot of people that never heard the word no. And my last assignment in that category was at Hidden Valley Country Club down in the Roanoke-Salem area. And then I thought I'd retire at age 70 and played 93 rounds of golf. Even though I only impersonated a golfer, that was a big void after working 60 hours a week. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring and run for the District of Green Springs supervisor for the Louisa County Board of Supervisors. I fooled enough people to get elected then, and so the history now, I've been there 4 years, and I'm up for re-election this time around.
So before we jump into Chris, the last 4 years, what would you consider your most
Good question.
achievement, your crowning glory of an
Top
achievement?
accomplishments.
Top accomplishment. Thank you.
That is pretty easy. I think the most dramatic was our ability to get a trifecta, the unholy alliance of the two electric cooperatives and Dominion Electric Company, that's CVAC, Rappahannock, and then Dominion, to form and merge so that we could bring internet, hard fiber technology to every home in Louisa County.
So Bob, we're talking broadband, which is another subject we tackle quite regularly. But I have to kick it back over to your cohort to your left here, Chris Fairchild, because I think Nelson beat us, but Fluvanna County is pretty much in second place as far as speed of getting broadband throughout the county. So it's Firefly, which is part of the Central Virginia Electric Co-op, and I believe we're going to be having broadband throughout the county by 2024. I think Nelson County's 2023. When are you guys going to have it?
We expect, because of our 500 square miles of mostly rural territory, we expect that within 3 years. So we're looking at 2 years, but it could stretch depending on a multitude of combinations. And that's why the combination of all three. Rappahannock is our largest. They have 3/4 of our county.
Sure.
And so getting their cooperation and involvement with the other two was vital.
Well, it was the cooperation. And the reason they do this, the reason the co-ops are like the driving force of this, guess what? They've got the easements. Right.
And the infrastructure.
They've got the easements, the infrastructure is going in.
Yeah.
And Chris, as you know, because you live around Lake Monticello, I was coming in this morning around Lake Monticello, and they're plowing the fiber in at the lake. So, Chris, tell us about yourself, brother.
Well, I'll just also add, we're pretty anxious for it. Living just outside of the lake, I still am in an area where I have virtually no internet without dish.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, my property backs up to Lake Monticello, so this Firefly coming in is a big deal. It was amazing to me to get outside of the lake and find out in such an area of so much density that we're like some of the extended areas, most rural areas of the county where I can't hardly get internet without making my phone a hotspot.
So put that in perspective. What does that mean if your kids were in school right now from a COVID standpoint and they were having to learn at home? Could you have done that?
I would have made it work like so many great parents are, but man,
It would have been
I've thought about it
challenge.
many times. What a challenge. I certainly feel for those families that are going through that. So God bless them for getting it done.
We accomplished that goal but in a couple of ways. Number one, we had already started putting up 9 towers for wireless communication, although that's hindered by topography, trees, and valleys. But we augmented that by putting mobile hotspot stations in various locations around the county to augment the coverage that was lacking.
Yeah, so you would drive your student to the school, right? And
To the hotspot.
To the hotspot, they would actually
Yes.
do it that
I
way
see.
in the
They
car.
download the curriculum at the hotspot.
Yes.
And then bring it home.
Or if they're close enough, they could do it from home.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, it just, as you guys were chatting, local government kind of gets a little bit of black eyes every once in a while about, accomplishments and so forth and so on. This broadband thing, I know because I've been part of it for 10 years on the commission, which Bob serves with me, and Chris was kind enough to appoint me 10 years ago on it. We've been working on this for this long, and this is a super accomplishment, in my opinion, to try to get that out there. I feel from the real estate side of the fence. The first question we always get asked is not water, not sewer, how many bedrooms. It's does it have broadband? And more importantly, what's its upload and download speed? Because as you know, with satellite, it's not so fast, right?
Yeah.
Cable and with fiber, it's going to be off the charts as far as speed
I think
goes.
another important factor, yes, the first option is 100 Mbps, and that's at $49.99, no contract, and a 10-year price. Okay? If you need it for higher level business, you can ramp up to 1 gig for $79.99.
That's a deal.
So let's talk about the impacts of, we have an astute businessman sitting next to your left,
Well,
rather successful, I have to admit.
national company.
A national company.
Thank you very much. National Filter Service.
There you go. We're done. Well
Really
done.
original.
I
You just
feel
do Charlotte.
privileged just being next to you.
It happens.
It happens regularly. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was this cooperation between the two jurisdictions, right, to grow the Zions Crossroads area. And as you know, on the commission, the Zions Crossroads is working on, the commission is working on a small area plan, right? Both counties commissioned us to do that. Had a great meeting on Friday, but this is kind of like a duh question, but now that we're going to have fiber there, do you think that's going to help us grow businesses? And if so, what businesses do you guys want to see there?
I'll let you go first.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but just after I was elected and fortunate to get the position on the Thomas Jefferson Planning Commission, I had asked you, knowing where you lived, if there was a possibility of how the current, or at that time, the Board of Supervisors personnel at Fluvanna would be interested in a concept I had. And that was, how can we maximize the mutual intersection that we share on 15 and 250? I wanted to create a maximum benefit to both counties where we don't compete, but we actually unite and create a very competitive market for both our counties, but more importantly, all our residents, so they could benefit. I brought that back to my unholy alliance, and I actually received a very unfriendly response.
Why is that?
The response was, you talked to them? You talked to the enemy? Don't you know this goes back to high school football games? Now, it really shocked me, and my jaw dropped, and my answer, I didn't hesitate. I said, that might have been then, but this is now, and we're talking about the future. So let's get together here.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love that.
Chris remembers some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked to hear that element was there, that feel
4 years ago.
was there.
Well, I was involved, from the periphery on helping trying to bring water in the JRWA, James River Authority, up to Zion's Crossroads, and there was historically a little animosity. I'm a little disappointed to hear it still exists. I thought we kind of got past that by now. But the good news is you won the day, right? Because they engaged the commission. We are in the process of doing that. Chris, I didn't give you an opportunity to reintroduce yourself to folks that may not know you, like the two people. So if you would mind, just tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, Chris Fairchild grew up in Fluvanna County and raised my children there, and as of this coming Monday, Scotty, my second granddaughter, is going to be born in and live at the same house that I raised my children in, and just blessed to be from there and love it and want to continue to serve.
So tell about your business, because that's a big thing.
National Filter Service. We change heating and air filters for national restaurant retail chains. Started in Fluvanna 30 years ago, almost coming up on 31 years ago, and actually started in a little barn down off of a farm in Scottsville that last night at the Republican meeting was talking to a guy who now lives back in there. And I said, surely that old barn has fallen. He said, no, it's still there. And then he said, that explains what this metal thing is. It's been sitting down in the corner of the barn, which is a frame to our filters. 30 years later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I want to go down and get that
You
frame.
got to get that frame, dude.
Yeah.
I think that's called thievery, but anyway, you got to ask first.
So started the company here locally on a couple restaurants, and today we're at about 20,000 locations
Tell
that we
that
serve
story
nationwide.
about those first few accounts. The two brothers, right?
The customer was sent out to hand tools, working for a heating and air company, sent out to hand tools on a slow day in the shop to a service tech, and went up on the roof, and coil was frozen, and I didn't even know that filters would freeze a coil. And after a few hours of sitting on the rooftop, thawing out the coil, changed the filters, and went down, and $300 and some was the service call. And I said, well, gosh, for what you just paid for that, you could have probably had somebody change them all year and wouldn't have had the issues. And he said, great, I've got 8 stores, when can you start? And I said, well, you can't build a business off 8 stores. He said, my brother has 29, when can you start?
Wow.
And,
Tomorrow.
yeah. And with 2 little kids, 2 babies at home, and a wife, when we talked and just said we can't get poorer than we already are, so it can only hurt but so much, and good Lord,
Only can go one way.
blessed us from there. Yeah.
That's a great story, Chris.
And I love it when he tells that story because we're from the same world, right? We've always worked for ourselves and grew our own businesses and so forth and so on and that kind of thing. And I love it when you tell that story. Just to pivot a little bit, this can be done, right? It can be done. You don't have to have a PhD.
Right.
This can be done. I think the secret is seeing.
He's going to love this. This is from someone who insured you. You know who this is?
Who insures me?
Yeah, who insured you when you started your business. You take a guess who it is, then I'll read the comment after you take a guess.
Daryl Hammond?
Yeah, there you go. He goes, Chris is a great guy. I remember when he started and he came to me for insurance, and I said, you're doing what?
Yeah. We played a lot of softball together after. Daryl has a great business too, Hammond Insurance.
You got the Central Virginian watching you here, Bob, on the show. Just giving you a heads up. Keith, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, so you took it from 29, 39, whatever clients. How many do you have now? And you have some big name folks. I know you don't want to name names, but national chains.
Yeah, we have national chains that have thousands of locations each across the country that we service. Our oldest customer is one of the nation's largest retailers. We've been with them 25 years this year.
Good for you.
And you just, as long as you do what you say you're going to do, people seem to buy it. And to that, I'd say, again, just what your point of just not having the education and just going out and doing it. My mother last night at the Republican yearly cookout, we recognized her she was a young coal miner's daughter, literally, who with a guy stepped out and started a coal company and with two young kids and no college education and so on. And I learned from that. In America, I truly believe the American way is anybody can do it.
Amen,
Whether
brother.
you're from New York City or West Virginia.
You had to go to New York, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you're a little slower up there.
It's just me, brother.
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
It's just me.
Eric LaFontaine, he owns the Ben Barbecue in Scottsville. He's watching. He says to Bob, I wish Southern Albemarle County would follow in your footsteps. Our system down here in Southern Albemarle County is an absolute joke. There are significant difficulties in the Scottsville area with CenturyLink, which is a show in and of itself.
Yeah,
I
sure.
certainly feel for the residents of Scottsville and the surrounding area of Scottsville that cannot get consistent internet. I mean, they can't even get a consistent phone line working.
So I would encourage this gentleman to come and visit and sit on this show in October 8th and watch it. We have 2 Albemarle County Board of Supervisors are going to sit in those 2 seats.
Who you got coming?
So I've got Diantha McKeel
There you go.
and Ned Galloway, the chairperson of Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, and we're going to have that conversation too.
Is that saying that Scottsville does not have quality?
CenturyLink, so I'll give you a little background here. CenturyLink is the loan provider.
Yep.
CenturyLink recently has sold its Scottsville portion of its business. And because it's recently sold a Scottsville portion of its business, it's really not put much into it, or it's about to sell it. And as a result, you got residents right around Scottsville that cannot get consistent internet, or having a hard time getting a hard phone line in.
Yeah.
In this area. And you think about some of the older population over there that's at home that needs the connection to medical,
Yeah.
for safety purposes. Eric can offer a lot more perspective on that. If you could, Eric, put it in the feed and I'll relay it to Bob, who I think knows it very well what's going on.
And I knew that in the rural area of Scottsville. I just didn't realize that down in the town that was that bad.
The good news is, much like Louisa County, Albemarle County is working with Dominion Power, right? They're just a little bit behind the 8 ball, a little bit on that end of it. And some portions of Albemarle County are covered by CVEC, which is included in this Firefly thing. So I would encourage anybody to Google Firefly. They have a map where it's going, have a map where it's going. But, Firefly actually is owned by Central Virginia Electric Co-op on that end of it. And they got in front of it and started reaching out to the jurisdictions. There's a ton of federal money available, which is good news, to help make that happen, because this stuff is not inexpensive to do.
And finding the glass half full, COVID putting people at home working and children at home learning has taken
Prioritized.
It's made it where you go out in those areas and the rural areas, and you naturally know that you're not going to have that, but you kind of go, oh, well, we're in the rural areas, it'll eventually be here.
I don't want that,
Until COVID, and now it's become intolerable. I mean, you go out in the Cunningham district, throughout the Scottsville area, you cannot get a cell signal. I mean, there's just almost no communication. I get plenty of phone calls from 286 phone numbers now that I'm running from Scottsville. And its landline is 286 in the Scottsville area.
Who has a landline?
And I find myself going, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Sure. But why? Because they have virtually no cell service, which means they have no internet service, and it's just it's pushing us along.
Your friend is offering perspective on this. It's terrible. I had 5. This is Daryl Hammond.
Yeah.
And Bob, will throw it to you after this. Daryl Hammond says, it's terrible. I had fiber buried into my house in February, and it's still laying outside my house waiting for it to be hooked up. Mm-hmm. And the town is just as bad with and without any service for my office here. I'm right above Eric's business at the old Barefoot Country Store, Eric LaFontaine. Mm-hmm. This is Daryl Hammond, Eric LaFontaine offering the comment. I'm right above Eric's business at the old Barefoot Country Store, so I know it's an absolute pain. I mean, it's become a public utility now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's become a public necessity.
Oh, well said.
It used to be a nice to have, convenience and toy. Now, for the health reasons, for education reasons, for communication reasons, it has become vital. a vital tool and a necessity, like I said before. I was a little surprised, or maybe not, from my partner here, that in his introduction to himself, he didn't mention that we go way back, he and I. We actually met at this summer at the Fluvanna Ag Fair. And I had the privilege of first meeting him because, again, being a rookie in this county, I didn't have the privilege when he was actually a Board of Supervisors. So
I'm an old schooler, long time ago, 10 years ago, my 1 year that I was on the board.
So I was able to ask him questions to learn more about his particular thoughts and visions for the future, and we had a great conversation there.
Yeah.
So, Bob, we were asking what your biggest accomplishments was. We kind of got one. It looks like broadband is kind of raising to the top.
I got another big one.
Okay, go ahead.
When I got on the board, myself and my partner, Dwayne Adams, we embarrassed the hell out of the other 5 characters because the comprehensive plan, which I think most people know, the state of Virginia requires every county to review that comprehensive plan. They don't have to make any changes, but they're supposed to review it. We were both astonished that it had not been changed in 20 years, not even the misspellings. So we, like I said, got after it, and I understand now a little bit why they didn't want to, because it took almost two and a half years to completely update. And it was so important because the comprehensive plan covers so many issues, zoning, especially ordinances, and actually how we can operate within the context of dealing with economic development and all the planners and visionaries of the future for our county.
So for those who may not know, Green Springs encompasses Zion's Crossroads, right? The big influences in Zion's Crossroads is the industrial area, the business area, plus Spring Creek. So to talk about that comprehensive plan, and the reason why I'm so excited about having 2 of you guys sitting together, and with hopes 2 of you guys will be on the Board of Supervisors, this concept of not looking at something for 20 years is, I've been involved in this for 30-something years, is not surprising to me that it hasn't been done. But let's talk about going forward. So, Bob, what do you want to, the next 4 years, you're blessed to get elected. What do you want to accomplish in the next 4 years? And what do you want to accomplish with Mr. Fairchild in Fluvanna County?
Well, actually, I want to build on what we've already started as a personal experience with each other. So, people that know each other better work together better.
Yeah.
So it's a concept of how we can build on that, plus the other members of the Fluvanna board that I know pretty well. So our hope is to, again, maximize the mutual benefit of our close proximity to each other.
But what does that, and I'll toss this out to both of you guys, and Chris jump in. What does that look like for me? I'm the citizen of Fluvanna County. What does this small area plan, what does this economic cooperation around Zion's Crossroads look like for me? What effect is that going to have on me?
Well, if we can work out this mutual understanding and mutual benefit to all of our citizens by not competing for future economic development, where the area exists of sharing the knowledge of what is really needed and what can be done in the future. So that I think all the residents of both counties can benefit. The die has already been cast on Zion Crossroads, and in fact we have what we have now, and it's been only been just going gangbusters with more and more coming in. We've already got 2 big plans approved that'll be taking shape and full build out within the next 5 years. That includes a multitude of amenities.
So you're referring to developments?
Yes.
Got it.
And that development is going to improve everybody because people will travel for quality. That's one thing about the fact of where we are right off Interstate 64 and James Madison Route 15. It's easy access. And so the Walmart and Lowe's at Zion Crossroads outsells their counterparts in Short Pump. And that's because of the volume of potential customers that are not only the 10,000 people at Lake Monticello, but all the affluent communities of Glenmore, Keswick, and the surrounding area.
That's where I live. I'll throw this to you here, and Brittany Gray is doing a hell of a job for you right now. She just shared everything. Well done, Brittany. I just gave her props on the feed here. You got voters that have comments here, potential voters that we need to get to. So this is from Eric. He's a business owner. and he's one of the stakeholders at Scottsville. I will definitely watch the show on the 8th.
Thank you.
In regards to CenturyLink for Chris and Bob, he says, they installed my phone at my business. It did not work since it was installed. I lost money from an order 3.5 weeks ago, a couple $1,000s. This is downtown Scottsville. The town had a town hall meeting with CenturyLink on September 20th. Very few knew about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I called AEP because they run my home power in Esmont. They said they didn't have a contract with Firefly for the Esmont area. We want to touch on that at all from Eric LaFontaine, husband, father, business owner.
I think that's more of an 8th conversation because that's an
That's
album.
for Donna Price.
That's for Donna Price.
That's literally for Donna Price
and
right there.
for the folks over that.
What is Donna doing, Eric LaFontaine? Offer some perspective on that if you could. Go ahead. And we got
Well,
more
don't-
comments coming
yeah,
in.
so my knowledge about it from being on the commission, AEP is not part of this group. It's pretty much Dominion Power and CVEC and Rappahannock, thank you, on that end of it. But I would encourage reaching out to AEP and seeing if they want to join in. Eventually, they're going to have to.
And I'll say, as much as that's Albemarle County, and it's its own
touches
town
your district.
and so on, it sure does. And boy, I mean, Fluvanna actually does come in just into the edge of the
Yes.
town itself. And boy, what happens right there affects across the line. So I want to find out more about that.
Yeah, so I think today it's hard to answer. I think from a market perspective, we kind of talk about this all the time, right? If CVS is on one corner, Walgreens comes in the other, eventually, AEP is going to have to come to the table. And that's where the elected officials can put a little bit of pressure on AEP to kind of show up, and that's ultimately what happened in Louisa County, right? You guys put pressure on them, they came to the table, and the next thing you know, you have it in the ground.
I'd like to get with Eric and Daryl.
Sure.
They're hearing this now, hopefully, and see what we can do to.
I'll tag you guys.
Yeah.
So you can follow up. Brittany, I'm tagging Chris, Eric, and Daryl right there on the feed for you.
So I'm your constituent, right? I'm in your district. How do you feel about this Louisa County, Fluvanna County working together on Zion's Crossroads?
Well, first you said it's been since football rivalries. I literally have the scars on the back of my head where at Louisa my senior year they rocked my head and sent me to the hospital. So it took us a little bit to get
Say
over
that again slowly, because that makes a lot of sense now.
Rocked my head. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a tick that I have. That's Louisa.
Love you,
But
man.
I'm sure Waterline
Sure.
over all these years created some of that animosity.
Sure.
And sometimes it's good to remember what you've been through, and sometimes parts of that it's good to let go. And it goes back to some of what I was saying last week about other, I'll just say infrastructure, other things we've done in the county that were big spend items. If I don't think politically and regarding our neighbors in the county, we've treated some of those big spend items correctly. And so when we do that in the county and have turmoil over it, and you end up, that's affecting you as our partner and our neighbor, again, how you treat your neighbor that lives beside you and how you treat your neighbor that's the county beside you. Ultimately, if we can't get along, we're not going to get along with you. And that turmoil is going to flow over. And I hope in the county we'll do some of that better in the future, helping to get more people on the bus and meet everybody's needs. And that will make us better to work with you all. I will say that in the little bit that Bob and I've been around each other, I am very encouraged by the person I've met, and that I think we can say together that we're going to make that go away very quickly.
Good.
Sad.
Good. That is a sizzle reel right there.
That's a what?
That's a sizzle. It's a little term we have.
Sizzle.
Sizzle.
Oh, a sizzle.
Yeah,
I thought you said scissor.
But because what you said is what I was hoping to hear, right? Look, we got to work a little bit in our in-house, right? Get along a little bit internally as far as our county is concerned, because we got to get that looking good so we can work with our next door neighbor so we can move forward. I can tell you from my perspective, I'm encouraging this, as Bob knows, because we've been pushing this pretty heavily at the commission end of it. But if we can work together and we can come with some sort of revenue sharing or some sort of relational project that moves forward, that's just going to take a little relief off my property taxes, right? And we're at 97%. If Neil's watching, I can't remember what our county is. It's in the high 90s of
Total revenue,
total revenue from real estate.
which is a shocking number.
And I don't know what Louisa County's is. Do you know what Louisa County's number is, Bob?
Not just from real estate, but because we are blessed, again, with some really favorable return on all the economic development.
Yeah.
Right now, and I can say this loosely, the Zion Crossroads area, when you couple Spring Creek, but all the other development in the area, that produces actually the piggy bank for Louisa County.
What percentage, roughly?
I don't know the exact percentage because it changes so fast, but we are, well, I don't even know if I'm able to say, but
Well, it's pretty.
It's a large chunk.
it is a huge chunk. And now the cost is also because of the fire protection, the cost of the sewage treatment plant and everything else that has gone on, but we've exceeded that by far. I think the advantage, we're over expenses by I believe the figure was $73,000 a head, and that was.
We're not going to hold you any exact numbers,
Well,
Bob.
thank you.
But I'm trying to save you here a little bit, right? You don't have to do that. But from an obvious example, right? I know for a fact because some of my clients have built facilities on that side of it. They're producing a substantial amount of money, meals tax, property tax, all this stuff is going there that we don't have as much on our side of the line. So without doing a number, you're not at 96 and 97% of your real estate.
No.
You're closer. I mean, the magic number is 30% from other sources and the balance coming from real estate. I'm not so sure you're there yet, but you're sure as hell not at 95, 96.
Well,
Could be soon. I mean, I was talking with the project manager that's building out Spring Creek a couple days ago, and he was talking about the vast amount of empty lots.
You got 600 empty lots.
That's
there.
what I'm saying. Imagine another 600 rooftops in Spring Creek and the
Well-
impact that'll have.
Well, there's
Good point.
Spring Creek's a planned 1,200 home community. We have 762 homes there now, and 14 under construction. So now some of those are being developed, and now 77 lots were purchased by people that were looking for a future profit. So that's counted in. But there's there are sections of development that are continuing, especially along the first 9 of the golf course. So we expect that to be accomplished in the next 4 years.
Interesting number. I ran some stats on Spring Creek this morning. Year to date sold at Spring Creek, there were 70 units sold, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, around 3,000 square feet. Median sales price is $465. 2008, that number was $410.
And we're also blessed with that 0.72 tax
I
rate.
apologize, 2018. I said 2008.
sorry.
2018.
Yeah. I think the low tax rate of 0.72 is another factor
Well,
that.
Yeah, we don't want to go down it because I'm always reluctant to throw out tax rates.
Okay.
Right.
On why people purchase homes.
Well, it's not even that. So some people get hung up on tax rates. It's a game, right? And you guys know this. It's about what your budget is, what your appraised value is, and then your tax rate. And it has to get to 0, right? So if you're at 7 something and we're at 90 cents, but if I take the same house at Lake Monticello and drop it into Spring Creek, you're several $100,000 more in value. So it's rates are. I tend to stay away from discussions with rates because it can get a little confusing. Well, I'm paying 90 cents and you're paying 70. Well, hold the time out. Your property over there is worth $200,000 more than it is in Fluvanna County.
I defer to the expert.
Well, I wouldn't say I was an expert, sir, but
There's an equation to it that's more difficult than.
Exactly right. So it's not a 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
There's another number in the middle of that.
Yeah.
That gets to that end result. So I just don't want to freak people out.
I just I love waving the flag for.
I know that. I know that, Bob.
So I'd also say, regarding the partnership, we said last week that, we don't own any of the corners of 64 and 15. That's all you guys. That's all Louisa.
Plus 250 and 15.
No,
The
250 and
act-
15.
But I'm saying
Both.
64
Right,
and
sure.
15 is not Fluvanna.
That's exactly
And
right.
we said last week, we hear on people talk about in our county, what are we doing on our side of 64? And I always say, we don't have one. That's you. And so what you all do is going to work its way
To us.
towards 250 and 15, and that's where we become more of a partnership. And you said at the beginning, 250 and 15, and I don't think I've heard anybody else say that. That's acknowledging, I like that. That's acknowledging where our piece picks up and where our opportunity is. And so as partners, what you all do is going to affect when our opportunity comes. And so
That's why you have to work.
We'd better work with you.
Yes.
You have to work together.
Yeah.
And part of Bob's and Green Springs and Zion's Crossroads challenge is you can't go any further north, right? Because Green Springs, you're there. So the only real places that you can go is towards us or east, right? Over that
and
way,
a little
right?
bit west. And
A little bit, but not too
Not
much because
far.
you run into. So this is the reason why Bob tossed it out. I supported it on the commission, and I think Fluvanna County, quite the opposite of Louisa County. We were all on board with it at the Board of Supervisors level. So we're not carrying that grudge at all on our side. We want, at least from my perspective, want to work together. So, Chris, second rodeo here on the show. You're elected. What's your first big thing you want to tackle? You're on day one. What is Chris Fairchild going to do come January 1?
Well, Bob mentioned the comprehensive plan and that had not been updated, and it has been in Fluvanna. And what I was thinking when you were talking about, what did you say, 20 years?
20 years.
And a mentor of mine, Grant Tate, once taught me early in my business the difference between management and leadership. And this is no slam against anybody that's been involved in the past in Louisa, but to me, that's management. 20 years without affecting your comprehensive plan. Leadership is, where are we going, and does that reflect that? And I find that in Fluvanna, especially lately, that we need to really review our comprehensive plan and be sure it fits. In some ways, there's a changing mindset in a changing mindset in Fluvanna regarding growth.
How so?
I hear more than I've ever heard people saying, I'm concerned about us growing into what everybody moved here to get away from. And not everybody. Of course, a lot of people, lived there, started there, and so on. But, man, I say it's like in Braveheart, you had the two factions that didn't like each other, the Scots, and they used to fight, and suddenly they said, you know what, the English are over the hill, and we better come together. And so there's some element in Fluvanna that needs to come together of the from heres and come heres that are both starting to have some concerns about what growth is going to do to us to change us. And boy, we better get together and stop saying, you're rural and you're Lake Monticello. I think I said last week, when you're on 53, at the end of 53, at 7:30 in the morning and traffic's backed up forever, you're not seeing a sticker on the car in front of you that says Scottsville or Lake Monticello, because you're both convening up there at Monticello and getting on 53. So it affects us all, and I'm happy to see a growing awareness of growth and more thought into where it should go and what it should look like, if it fits our personality or not.
So we talk all the time on the show. It's something I bring up all the time. First and foremost, that is the exact reason why the state says every 5 years you need to do this, right? And back on this management and leadership part of it, the management should have told your Board of Supervisors, no, you're not kicking this can down the line. You need to take a leadership role and do that. So thank you for doing that and getting that done. But there's the very reason why the state does this every 5 years, because what a comprehensive plan is, hey, what do I want to be? when I grow up, right? This is, what do I want to be? It's a non-obligatory document. It's not a requirement, but it's a guide. Hey, what I want to be, the
Kind of a vision
a
statement.
vision statement. Exactly right. If you write a business plan, that's exactly what it is. It's a vision statement. But one of the things I'm excited about hearing is the being able to bring folks together and have this conversation and move forward. And the second thing we talk about all the time is, and I'm excited to hear this, it's the lack, and I don't mean this as a dig towards anybody. It seems the lack of involvement in the process is staggering to me, right? It seems
From the community, you
from
mean?
the community,
Yeah.
right? It's changing, and I think what we're doing here is helping that tremendously.
Yeah, I do too.
But I show up in meetings, all the time. You show up to meetings, you attend meetings all the time. How many times public is there? Very rare.
Well, I'd like to piggyback on what Chris said because it was very important. I, too, am besieged by people that want to close the door. And my old saying is, change is inevitable except for vending machines. But it's a situation where growth is going to happen. We can't control it. We can only manage it. And if people stopped having babies, we wouldn't have to worry about it. But guess what? They aren't making any more land, so we have to be wise and shrewd of how we use the land that we have.
Amen.
However, landowner rights runs supreme in our state. That means I get lambasted because we got a 7-Eleven coming in. Well, guess what? I didn't get to choose that. That landowner made the decision to put that type of facility on his property. So we can run that through the process, and it's a lengthy process going through the Planning Commission to actually before it starts getting built. But once that's done, the Board of Supervisors nor anybody else can stop that process.
Well said, Bob.
Well, the market tends to lean things one way or the other. So day one, I've heard review the comment. What are you going to do on day one, Chris? I know you well enough to know. I think I know the answer to it. What day one? What are we going to tackle?
Boy, I want you to tell me if you know the answer.
Well,
What do you think it's gonna be?
I know exactly what you're going to do on day one because I know you well enough. You're going to continue education process, and you're going to sit down in there and learn all this stuff and say, okay, guys, teach me, right?
Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of people coming to me with things that, Chris, what about this? What are we going to do about that? And as much as we have a great staff at the county, I'm not there yet.
Sure.
But boy, I'm building the book, and I'm reaching out to some people kind of on the sidelines to start getting educated, and they do help me and give me information. But I am anxious to be in a position
that's
where
what
I can say,
if I
now
know
it's
you well
me.
enough to know, day one, you're going to say, okay, because there's certain things that's not privy to you now because you're not in the seat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to get educated. I need to understand this. Somebody told me this was green. I need to understand why.
Yeah.
Right. And I know you well enough to know that's what you're going to do.
Right.
Bob, what are you going to do on your first
I think
day?
there's a larger issue here, though, that I found incredible as I got more deeply into this after being elected. We all vote for president, senators, and Congress, governors, and there is some trickle down that comes down.
Sure.
But there is no other body like the Board of Supervisors because every decision we make has a direct impact on all of our residents because that's what they call local politics. But the dismay and the apathy, the people, when I reviewed 4 years ago the election returns and people, they voted for whatever the higher office was, they didn't even get down to the Board of Supervisors. They didn't even know, when I'm knocking on doors, you're the Board of Supervisors, well, what do you do?
What was election total votes for you?
It was 2,300 total votes.
2,300 total votes.
In our 2,300 in our district. Okay?
Your Green Springs district.
Green Springs district. We now have 4,080 registered voters. Okay?
So 50% only came to the table.
So that's what makes this so difficult. How do we get the message across of educating our residents, our constituents, what actually we do and why it's important?
What do you think?
I think that has to happen beyond the election season.
There you go.
Once you're elected, that you continue to get engaged and involved with groups in the community. One example, Nahor Village has the concerns about development that's trying to come in beside them.
Yeah.
That group is rallied. They're together.
Let everybody know where that is.
Nahor is on Route 53, just outside of Lake Monticello. That's a group of 70-ish some homes that they are rallied together. And another great thing about this rallying together, by the way, is that when we've been meeting all in their clubhouse and discussing the subdivision and what to do about it, and nobody's ever asked who's a Republican or a Democrat.
There you go.
And you can't tell. But all they know is they all have a concern of this, how it's going to affect the roads in their community, being a 55 and older community, because it's going to direct traffic some through it and so on, and all those impacts. That is local. That's not. We always say it is in Fluvanna. We're never going to vote on abortion, meaning it's all local. What happens to you and your neighbor?
All politics, real politics, is local.
Yeah.
And the second thing that I always said, that little scar you get in the back of your head, you're going to get some more of them, because being a board of supervisors is a contact sport.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's where people hit their home, as you just described, and as Chris knows all too well. I have a personal connection with that particular project, but it's all local. And as I was writing notes as you were speaking, this is what we're trying to do here. Right. This is what we're trying to do with this coffee with the candidates is to have this long form format, have some folks chime in some questions.
We got questions coming.
And have an opportunity to do this. So this isn't going to stop after the election. I want to make this clear to you, Chris. When the next year we're going to continue this out throughout next year. We're going to do report cards. So how are we doing, guys?
Yep.
Right. Are we making some accomplishment?
And if I can just add one thing to this, it made my night. When I left a meeting last night, at a phone call from a 286 number, which is Scottsville, called sweet elderly lady. I mean, and she called and she said, first of all, I want to know what you stand for. I've been seeing your signs. I want to know what you stand for. And then second of all, I want to know, what is the Board of Supervisors and what do you do? And she didn't know at her age even what it is or what's involved, because God bless her, she takes care, all these years she's been taking care of her family and whatever the work was and so on. And if they didn't have anything to rile them up, to get them excited or upset, then they've just been taking care of life, which is great. It's up to us to kind of do the work over here. While it was surprising, not surprising, it was notable that she didn't even know who we were and what we did. So we need to be getting that out there.
Voters chiming in. Daryl says, what time will be the October 8th interview be? 10:15 a.m., guys, 10:15. So there's multiple people putting it on their calendars here. Fluvanna County Review, watching the program, CBS 19 on the broadcast. Jamie Turner for Bob and for Chris. This is Mr. Gordonsville right here. If this guy ran for any position in Orange, which Jamie, you should, he'd be a lock to get a victory. He says this is a broad question for Chris and Bob, but looking around Central Virginia, you have places like Ruckersville and Zion's Crossroads that are exploding with new developments. Then you have our town in Orange County that hasn't changed in the past 30 years. What is it about Zion's that is leading to this explosive growth?
Interstate's I-64. That is the main reason. And our comprehensive plan now that we are trying to develop all 4 interchange exits, because that's what business sees as a marketable location, because traffic and location go hand in hand. As an old real estate, location, location, location. And that is the prime reason.
Good answer right there. This is for Chris, coming from Lisa Costello. And Lisa Costello, I believe, lives in your district here. Zion's Crossroads used to be the Crescent Inn restaurant, a laundromat, and a small convenience store. That was it. Zion's Crossroads has exploded in recent years, and multiple people are adding for the good and for the bad. The president of the Charlottesville Albemarle Association of Realtors, Quentin Beckham, our friend, is watching. He says, I think there is great opportunity for Fluvanna and Louisa to develop housing that is accessible, more affordable, and definitely desirable along the I-64 corridor and other areas that would really be a help to our larger community. Yes, I think we are all in it together and positive to the counties as well. I'm looking forward to what is to come from both you guys. Gentlemen, anything you want to add on those topics?
So I'm not sure what Lisa's position is on that in Zion's, but yes, man, I'm glad she remembers that, and that's great history. We used to have a roundabout, by the way, in Zion's Crossroads. I don't know if you all remember that, but and suddenly here it's all coming back around.
Yes.
But it's an area that we need to direct our growth to. We have the infrastructure there now, and we have the roads to take the burden off of the growth area now, Lake Monticello, which is putting people on 53 and 616. In my opinion, that's where the mass of our growth should be diverted to. And of course, the comprehensive plan now speaks to that to some extent. I think that the comprehensive plan needs to give the vision stronger in that area. And to the positives and negatives, yeah, some say it's good, some say it's bad. Rooftops cost money. And so you dump a bunch of homes and apartments and so on in the Zions, it's still going to cost taxpayers in Scottsville. And so we got to be mindful of what type of growth we are putting in over there.
I'm glad she asked the question, because right now we have two projects that have already been approved that envelop 1,300 what we call workforce housing. It is affordable because it is so important to retain our vital staff of the fire rescue, our teachers, and our sheriff's office, because a lot of them have to live out of state or out of county because they can't find reasonable housing.
And Louisa, too?
In Louisa County, we had Stonegate, which is a 150 apartment complex, that was sold out in 6 months. Waverly Place, by the same builder, in downtown Louisa, was sold out in 8 months.
So those are rental units. We
Those are rental.
We have to make sure we quantify that.
I'm sorry.
So if they're not living in Louisa to live in a cheaper place, where are they living?
The surrounding Goochland, Orange, in some cases Fluvanna, they're just trying to find places. But like when our recruiting force goes to Penn State to try to get teachers, one of the first questions they ask, well, where can I live? Okay. Now, apartment complexes may come up first, but we've got also villas and townhouses coming up as well. But if you can, and reason it's so important is we also, I'll give you an example, Walmart distribution. A lot of their employees have to live out of the county as well.
And they pay well.
Yes. And so it's not a question of them being able to afford it, it's being able to find a place to live.
That adds to a burden on the traffic system. Infrastructure and all that stuff. I have to give a shout out to Louisa County on this. As those who watch the show, I'm a little passionate about affordable housing and have been for quite some time. You guys made a substantial commitment to affordable housing, which is based on the history that I've known, it rather shocked me. You guys stepped up to the plate to try to do that. You want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys are doing
Again, that was a very controversial move. Sure. Because we got a lot of heat, as Chris was mentioning earlier, from all the people that want to close the door. They got here and they really don't want to have to put up with more traffic, noise, light pollution, and all the other potential negatives that are involved with economic development. No, we had to put it on the map because we hear from our, especially our security and safety individuals and teachers, that there are problems, and we don't want to lose people because they can't find housing, but we also want to make sure that we are able to retain them and attract them.
What do you think, Chris?
I hear the term, and not that Bob said this, I hear the term NIMBY a lot. And
it's basically the NIMBY mentality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'd say it's also the NIMBY brand, meaning not everybody wants to close the door. And I don't think you meant it absolute. A lot of it's just people who care and see the.
And they get a title thrown on them.
And see the impact that's coming at them.
I agree.
I always say, let a plant, some sort of manufacturing be built on the property beside you, and I don't want it. Well, you're a NIMBY, and I say, yeah. At night, there's just a little bit of green sludge that you can see that's drifting over on the property. But boy, it helps all the neighbors. It helps the whole county. And would you have that? Of course not. Well, suddenly you're a NIMBY. So I think it's good for people to care about the impact that it will have on the rural environment.
Titles are never good.
Even past
always get to know what the individual is thinking and why they're thinking that.
Right. I think past the title, it's good to have the concerns of what those impacts will be that will potentially change you into, again, I always say what people move there to get away from. And I think it's a valid concern.
Well, in that respect, we've, in our last comprehensive plan, for just the Green Springs District alone, we reduced the growth area 43%. We brought it from the edge of Albemarle way back to closer to the Zion Crossroads area.
And why did you do that?
We did that to ensure that there would be no violation of our rural heritage. We want to we want to preserve the rural nature of Louisa County to the best of our ability, but also concentrate where growth should occur, not where it shouldn't.
So that goes back to the small area plan that we're working on together between Louisa County, that's Fluvanna and Louisa County. I'm dyslexic, got mixed up there. Because what you're doing is you're drawing this geographic circle or this shape around this area and saying, at least in this plan, which is, by the way, not been adopted, just went in front of the Planning Commission. This is going through its particular process on that end of it. And please get engaged, those who are watching, please get engaged with that process and get your comments in on it. But if I hear you, that's where we want our growth. Outside of that, we don't want our growth. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly.
That's smart.
Yeah, because there are places where it would be difficult, but also too cumbersome and not essential. If we can isolate the key areas where growth would affect positively everybody, then it's more palatable. It's more understandable.
This is from Leslie here for you guys. Jerry and panel, you guys have gone an hour and have not brought up schools.
No.
Please ask the candidates about schools and the need for additional high schools in both counties.
Well, I don't know that it's a high school that's going to be the need that's coming up in Fluvanna, but there's a need. I mean, that is now one of the subjects on the table that the county's has just begun looking into, that there is going to be another school on the horizon. It has not been determined what level that's going to be or where it should go. But growth has made it
a necessity.
That's a very important question. We're fortunate in the fact that we've been on a progressive plan, addressing schools. We have a major modification, enlargement of our middle school that's budgeted for 2024. We have adjustments being made to Moss Knuckles Elementary. That's going to move the autism curriculum there to the Jewett school complex. We just are in process right now of building a large addition to the Jewett schools system as well. So we are looking at the growth patterns. It's all about enrollment. It's all about, and we thought to a certain extent, this COVID unfortunate experience we've been through because of virtual training and people going to maybe homeschooling or people going to private schools, we thought our enrollment would drop. But because of the quality of the schools, it has only risen. So I have to be forward-looking at how we're going to adjust for these changes that are going to be occurring.
So how'd you fund all that improvement?
Well, 62% of our budget every year, go to schools, okay? But the CIP program has to be funded individually as part of the overall budget. And we started planning this because we are fiscal conservatives in planning, but that is one of our ultimate priorities. we start with safety and security, but schools come right in there.
So those who are not familiar with that acronym, CIP is the Capital Improvement Plan, where the jurisdictions say these are the projects we want to build in the future, and then you figure out where the money's coming from. And that's the reason I asked the question.
Yes.
Where did you get the money from?
I want to commend Bob, by the way. You are on top of it, and whatever the question is, you know the details. And
Yeah, dude, you're good, man.
yeah.
Both you guys are. Very impressive. Quentin Beckham's chiming in with this for Bob. Louisa outranks Fluvanna, Albemarle, and many other counties in terms of population growth. It would be my guess that good planning for it and density for it can make the infrastructure needs less of an imposition and have a lower impact on the rural areas.
Well, that's true, and that was the purpose of, again, reducing those growth areas so we could concentrate on the impact, and some of those are negative impact, traffic, noise, light pollution, so on and so forth. So that gives us an opportunity to address those specific problems in those specific areas.
Jonathan's got a question for Chris. How do we attract the next commercial density to Fluvanna or new commercial density to Fluvanna? We're all driving across the county line for groceries, hardware, restaurants, and more.
Well, back to Fluvanna starts 9/10 of a mile off of 64, just on the Palmyra side of 250. When it comes to restaurant and retail, we said last week, you don't have to call them, they're going to call you. When Target comes and so on, believe me, they already know Walmart's there, Target does. And if they have a plan that we can fit into, they'll let us know. To some extent, what Louisa does in Zion's Crossroads on the restaurant retail side, on the Fluvanna side of 64, is going to work its way towards 250 and therefore create opportunity for us. Once that space is full, as Bob said, you're not going to go much towards Gordonsville anymore. They're going to backfill towards us. And I don't want to sound like we're going to react to, but the reality is they have the prime space. Ours is number 2, and that will create our time. And the time will come where they're full, and so much is happening over there with us. That's restaurant retail. On the industrial side, we do have an opportunity because we have the water line that soon will be active, and we need to decide what we're looking for there. I said last week, if you fill it with a bunch of 10,000 square foot warehouses with one bathroom, you're not going to do a whole lot to make use of that water line that's there, and then suddenly you're going to grow your growth zone because you need more places that use up that water. So we have we've had for the past couple of years a good economic development coordinator who's been working hard to get business to come to Fluvanna.
You guys just lost him, right?
Yeah.
We
Didn't he
did.
go
We
to
did.
another jurisdiction?
He went to Culpeper.
Brian's good people.
Yeah, but if you don't have product to sell, it's hard to be a salesman. Now that we have that water line, we're more capable.
Well, we
of
got
bringing
2 problems. We have the water line. We also don't have enough dirt, right? If you take a look at the growth area of Zion's Crossroads, to your point of having to grow it out, you're 100% that's what's going to happen. By the time that we finish up the JRWA and come in, our county's going to have about $20 million tied into this.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And we're business owners, right? So now I'm starting to look at my ROI, and I've got $20 million into this. And at some point in time, we're going to have to get these connection fees and this usage to offset that. Otherwise, my taxes are going up. So you're 100% right. I mean, it has to be a smart growth plan. When you have an opportunity, Chris, take a look at the commission did in 2013 a growth plan for Zion's Crossroads on our side of the line. It's a pretty interesting report. Take a look at.
Chris hit on a key point, and I think I mentioned this to him. Maybe he got that in his memory bank here when we were talking last month. I said, we're setting you up for success because, we're going to do all this and we're going to run out of real estate. And so you're going to be prime. You're going to get all those big shots.
Sir, I work for commission. You're not getting any.
I also want to say regarding that water line, and as you're saying, those connection fees or so on, that's going to be a burden that'll come on us if we don't get people using that water. That's a concern of mine too, and it has been ever since we've been talking about the water line. 10 years ago when I was on the board, I said, one of my fears is we build a water line there, and when that burden starts hitting the residents, of having to pay for that, and we don't have enough growth there yet, enough people, enough businesses using the water. Of course, residential connections are the quickest and best way to get more revenue off that water line. So then you go from, what I want to make sure we don't do is go from, oh, we put that there to get business and we brought the water line to bring them there. And then suddenly, a couple generations later of the Board of Supervisors, we need to get more apartments and so on to make use of that water so we don't have that burden on you, the taxpayers. And so I just want to be sure we're mindful of what we're putting there and we're in control of it.
But the bottom line is, this horse is out of the barn. This is happening. That money's been committed. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So why I'm so excited about having you on the board, because we talked about this last Friday with Tony, is you're bringing this business model. At some level, there's going to have to be some hard business decisions that have to be made, because we're just not going to say, oh, we don't want to pay the $20 million anymore. That's a done deal.
Yeah.
He is going to have a difficult time. I attended 4 of their Fluvanna Board of Supervisor meetings when the modern auto recycling plant was coming up for public meetings. And there was a big harassment of individuals, and I want to call them NIMBYs in this particular case for sure.
The harassment is maybe the wrong choice of words, Bob, to be all due respect.
Extremely vocal.
They were worried about it, and they were expressing their opinion pretty vocally, but
Yes,
I
pretty
don't think
vocal.
anybody was getting harassed. I just want to make sure we don't point
Okay.
fingers.
All right.
I
It's a-
think
stand
his point
corrected.
was that there was some aggressive
Yeah,
concerns.
got it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting my
There's a
vote.
couple rules, we don't point fingers, so.
Gotcha.
You want to finish that thought?
Yeah, please.
Well, I thought that their Board of Supervisors handled it right on the money, the correct way. Everybody had an opportunity to express their opinions, and that's always a vital part of our job. We listen to our constituents. We want to hear. But lots of times, not all the feelings of all of the residents are expressed. Usually we have a difficulty attracting the positive or people that are for a certain thing. A lot of the people that are negative about it, that is a reason, that's more of a motivation for them to come to the meeting. And that's unfortunate, because it gives a disproportionate public image, especially when people watch the meetings over the internet. It makes it seem like we're going against the public if we choose the other way.
Yeah.
So, are you more in favor of in-person meetings or virtual, Chris? When you get on the
Oh,
board?
in person.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
We were having this discussion offline that, it's great. I mean, the good news about this virtual is more people are getting engaged, which is great. But, just body language and reading the room and all this stuff is
As a
is
board
great.
or a commission, you can't replicate over Zoom having somebody passionately standing in front of you at a podium and expressing their concern and participating in the.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's so true. Virtual communication and discussions is just that. It's virtually as good as in-person communications.
Good call.
This is a question that's come in via Twitter for both you guys, and specifically for Chris. It's from Jason. He lives at the lake. Please ask the candidates if they would work in conjunction with developers to bring more rooftop housing to both Louisa and Fluvanna.
I just be honest with you. It's not a goal of mine to bring more rooftop housing to Fluvanna. It's going to come, and there's certain areas where we do need it. Don't get me wrong; it needs to be a part of the comprehensive plan. But I go back to virtually every rooftop raises taxes. More schools, more emergency services, creates more traffic concerns. If that's happening around Lake Monticello, and all of those people are already piled into that small area and traveling 616 and 53 to get out of there, and traffic safety, quality of life dealing with that traffic, I only want to bring rooftops if it complements Fluvanna, and also while allowing us to maintain our rural personality. So I'm just being honest, I don't have a goal to bring more rooftops. I know it's coming, and I want to help manage and lead where it's going.
I'm really on the opposite side of that coin. We realize, as I mentioned before, the need for it, and we know growth is inevitable, like I mentioned before. So if we can control where these workforce and affordable housing is located, that affords our residents more opportunity, and all our prospective new residents that are thinking about coming to our area, our region, we want to be able to zero in and provide them that opportunity.
And we agree we want to be able to plan for where it goes. Again, I think it's coming one way or another.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have to put a sign out saying, please come. I think instead we need to control where it's coming to. And,
You're about strategic and managed growth.
Yeah.
yeah, and I hate to use managed because I said earlier the difference between managed and lead. But yeah, I want to be a part of the leadership that designs what our management will be. And I almost didn't want to say this because it sounds like I'm saying something negative about what's happening on the Louisa side. And Bob and I'm going to learn a lot from him. And I think he and I are going to have a number of conversations away from the microphone talking about what has to happen there and different perspectives on it. When it was brought up earlier, the distribution center, Walmart distribution center, and they built that and it was great for economic development, but then they couldn't get enough people locally. So they had to start hiring and advertising from distances away. Well, what happens? If you live in Waynesboro and you work at Walmart in Zions Crossroads, the point's going to come potentially where you're moving to Louisa so you can be near your work. So then you have to have the houses. And so you talk about workforce housing. Now you need the houses because you have somewhere like that came in there. So now you need more infrastructure and you need more schools. And that's a balancing act that
So
needs
one
to
of
be
the
done
reasons I
tenderly.
was excited about having the two of you guys sitting across us, because I knew you guys had difference of opinions on this particular topic, but I also know that you will be able to sit down
no doubt.
and get educated. And this is why I was giving you a shout out from your day one. You're not saying no, you're just saying I need to get educated so I understand this a little bit more, and you're willing to seek out that education. And so my
And
hats-
thank you for saying that because as you were saying that, I was thinking we're not necessarily in different perspectives because in my mind, I tell myself, don't allow that to be where you
Sure.
stand because back to, I think he and I are going to have a lot of good conversations and he has experiences that I can learn from.
Well, that is the whole reason why we promoted it at the commission, promoted this small area plan between the two jurisdictions. We need to get past the scar on the back of your head, and we need to get past the hey, we're not going to talk to these other people. So I hope that has happened, right? Because the only way anybody's going to get anything done is sit down and have a conversation,
Yeah.
right? If we go to differing corners, nobody's going to win that.
Tammy
that argument.
Purcell has got something for you, Bob. Tammy Purcell is an influencer in Louisa County, undoubtedly.
Definitely.
In-person meetings are vital, but providing virtual access to as many public meetings as possible is very important and should be prioritized by local government. For example, the James River Water Authority does not allow the public to access its meetings virtually.
Really?
Tammy Purcell, well
Wow.
done with that comment today.
Well, that is out of my jurisdiction as far as that, but I totally agree with her that that is the benefit of the virtual sessions, and that's why we have been live streaming all of our supervisor meetings, our planning commission meetings, and that also not just live streaming, but allows people to call in or email in questions or concerns to us at those meetings. But the question was phrased initially is, was there a preference between in-person versus virtual? They both have advantages. Obviously, if there was a preference and everybody attended.
Both is the preference, right?
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
And that's doable.
Yes.
I mean, it's great for me when Fluvanna County had a planning commission and the city had a planning commission. I got to bounce back and forth between the two of them.
And back to what COVID did to make some of this stuff intolerable, the lack of communication that we used to have, I believe we'll have Zoom on every meeting the Board of Supervisors has for the next,
That's the
10
new reality.
years.
That's the next reality.
People are going to have the ability now that they
Yep.
didn't used to have to participate live.
Well, I wrote a note down about the James River Water Authority because I was not aware of that, and I'm going to make some phone calls because that's kind of BS. That's a big thing between our two counties, and it's not out there in Zoom and doing
Yeah,
live.
I really was also taken aback because I've been to
Well,
some of
Mr.
their
Chairman, I
meetings.
think you can make a couple of phone calls
Well,
on your side of the fence.
It is a different authority. However, I've been to some of their meetings, and they allow public participation, but she's right. I think, and I don't know what the prohibition is.
Well, that's important because that whole, as we were talking about the water, how that water is going to be handled and managed between the two jurisdictions is pretty important to how you two guys are going to work together to try to grow the economic development, whatever it looks like around Zion's Crossroads. So I wrote a note. That was a bit shocking to me. I did not know that.
Good comment, Tammy. We appreciate that contribution. All right, gentlemen, 11:34. We'll close with this question for you guys. Straightforward question. It's the elevator pitch. Why should the constituents and voters vote Chris Fairchild? And why should they vote for you, Bob? You want to go first, Chris?
Sure. I love Fluvanna. I want to make sure that I'm part of the decisions of where we're going, that both keep us the rural, beautiful place that we are while helping to create the vision of where we'll go and where our growth will be and what its effects will be on us, that in a business term that growth is profitable for us and doesn't change the company in ways that are less appealing. And I'm just happy to serve, proud to serve.
You, Bob. You're up.
Well, I'm blessed in the fact that I want to be able to continue my running as an independent for consensus, common sense leadership, not politics. Once hired, I had no experience prior to getting in this, and I took that responsibility seriously by getting that 16-month course through VACO, Virginia Association of Counties, to get certified. I thought that was a valuable experience, and not only having a manual I could go back to, but all the books and the essays and classes and speeches and all that. That was a vital experience gathering for me, or knowledge experience. I also want to protect the historic Green Springs Landmark District. I want to continue the visionary leadership and progress for our whole district, and our county. I'm not a pure district rep for reason. I'm also responsible for all the residents of the county. I only represent, from an election standpoint, my particular district. But the other thing is we've had a 4-year track record of achievement, and I would like to continue on that same goal and trying to get another 4 years of equal or even better achievement.
Excellent answer, both of you guys. You guys will appreciate this. John Barnhart, watching the program. This was informative and interesting. Thank you for watching. This is from Jonathan, who's followed up with a number of questions. He said, this is how we learn about local government. I've learned more in the last 90 minutes than I have this entire year. Thank you for putting this on. I mean, basically you put long-form content where everybody is at, which is these devices, our smartphones, and you put educated men that are evangelists for their community and love their community inside and out.
I love that word, evangelist.
Yeah. I mean, you're an evangelist. You guys are champions for Louisa and Fluvanna. And you put them in front of cameras and microphones and let them be themselves, and you're going to learn about the candidates. That's the concept of the network. Closing thoughts from you, Keith Smith.
Absolutely. That's the whole reason why we're doing this coffee with the candidates. Mid next year, maybe end of first quarter, we're going to have you guys come in and do a report do a little bit of a report card to see how we're doing, to see whatever we're talking about today is moving forward to implementation. Gentlemen.
See if then he's going to have to sit on the other side of the table because we're just combating so bad by
Yeah.
that point.
That is never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
In a million years, it's never going to happen. But gentlemen, thank you very much. I was excited about this. Next Friday, we've got Neil Williamson and Sean Tubbs in. We're going to talk a little bit of that. Then we're going to kick it back up with Albemarle County on the 8th of October. And we've got Charlottesville lined up after that. So we've got every Friday after the 8th of city candidates and Albemarle County candidates. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well,
and kudos to you all. Sorry.
Bingo.
Because, I mean, as was said on there, they're having this venue and learning these things because of what you're doing here. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
We think alike already, see? Yes, I wanted to sincerely really appreciate this opportunity. I'm deeply in gratitude for the opportunity to do this, and thank you for bringing the opportunity to us.
My pleasure,
Yeah.
Bob. My pleasure. When you hear a comment like that, Jerry and I spend an obscene amount of time together, and when you hear something like that, it just warms your heart, and you think you're doing it. Who do you have on at 12:30 today?
Myself, I'm going solo.
Good for you.
Recap the week that was. A lot to discuss from City Hall. A lot to discuss from the city charter and amendments that are being tried to push through leadership in City Hall. We'll talk Albemarle County and development today on the I Love CVille show, and some news from the University of Virginia at 12:30 on our flagship program, the I Love CVille show at 12:30. Robin Horn, I will relay this message. We're equal opportunity employers. She'd like Rachel Jones on the program as well.
Just have them message me. We'll put something together. We'll
We'll
see if
do
we can.
that.
We'll see if we can fit it in there.
Could you get one more picture here too?
Yeah, we will do that right over here.
We'll do that.
We'll get that.
This is video. This is
We'll
live.
get that right off after the show.
Just message me. We'll work on that.
Thank you for joining us, guys, on Real Talk, presented by Yes Realty Partners. We will see you in 50 minutes on the I Love CVille show. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, hell of a job.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you again.
Good job.
Enjoyed it.
Good job.
I'll be back next week.